Hi guys, welcome to my channel Cheeky Journals. If you're new here, I'm Tracy and I thought for the month of July we can make a junk journal together. I would not necessarily call this a tutorial, but I will bring you along and share my process with you as much as I can. As you can tell, it's going to be a sewing themed journal, and I picked up these 12 by 12 scrapbook papers from Kaiser Craft. I absolutely love them, and I got a few of these scrapbook papers, so I'm going to make definitely more than one journal, but I think for this video I'm definitely not going to do all of them on camera. I'm going to just show you how I make one of these, because they will be very similar. I'm going to include the same amount of pages, ephemera and things like that as far as I can, and it's just going to be basically the cover that's different. But we'll see as we continue along, because it's hard to say in the beginning. As you carry on with the process, you get new ideas and you just go with it. So if my plan changes, I will definitely share it with you. The first thing that I have to do is cut these because they are just way too big, and I am going to make them 21 centimeters by 26, and I'll put the inches somewhere here on the screen for you. I will just convert them on Google because I am not sure what that will be. I very rarely work in inches. I love this size. It fits in so well in my A5 traveler's notebook. I don't have a lot of overhang because I don't really like that. I find that if I add tabs or things that are sticking out of my journal, it can sometimes be damaged, but that's not for everyone. It's just something that I prefer, and that size just sits perfectly in there. It's not quite an A5 size, but it's also not the narrow traveler's notebook size. So I need to decide which part of this design I would like to keep on my cover, which I think is a very difficult thing because I just see so many things that I like on here. But I don't think it's too much of a stress because the offcuts I'll definitely try and use in the journal somewhere, so it's definitely not going to go to waste. Then this cardstock is nice and thick, so it's going to make a very good cover. But on the back of it we have like just a blank white page here. So on the inside I am still thinking either putting music paper or something like that on there, something vintage, or possibly fabric, which I'm leaning more towards. And I thought we can just have a look at what possibilities we've got for fabric. I keep my fabric in these containers from IKEA, and then I just label them. So this one holds all of my vintage fabric and also some neutral toned ones. When I buy fabric by the meter, I usually cut it into smaller sections, usually slightly bigger than what a cover of a journal would be, because that's the largest amount of fabric that I will need. Otherwise I need small bits and pieces for fabric flip outs, tabs and just ephemera. So I really love this fabric and I think it will go so well with the theme of this journal. The problem that I've got with this is I don't have enough of it, so I don't know if I'll be able to get more, but otherwise I could use this for tabs in the journal. This is also an option. This is one of my favorite fabrics. I really love it. I have actually used a similar, or actually an exactly the same one in journals that I made last year. It's just in a different color, so I still have some of this fabric left as well, actually quite a lot, so that could also be a possibility. But I am also really leaning towards these pieces. Now they are quite smaller, but I am thinking that I can maybe make a patchwork out of them, and they all have a different design on them. So I think it could be interesting. And we can always add a pocket over this, and it's not going to overtake it. It will still blend in very well, or the pocket will stand out nicely against this fabric. So these are my options that I'm thinking of. Otherwise, adding music paper, but I am leaning more towards having a fabric inside because I love that texture and just having that tactile element in the journal. So I think let's cut the covers, and then while I'm doing that, I'll be thinking what's going to work best. So let's get started. I am now done cutting and folding my covers. I just wanted to say that if you do not have a paper trimmer, you can definitely use a cutting mat. It's got measurements on there which makes it very comfortable, and you get it in different sizes. You'll only need a metal ruler and an X-Acto knife with that. Otherwise, you can just stick with the good old scissors. It works just as well. So don't feel pressure to go out and buy any fancy tools that you see on videos. You can definitely do it with things that you've got. So now that I'm done with sort of the outside of the cover, I still need to later on decide if I want to add anything extra on there. I think it's time that we work on the inside. So I'm just going to make space, and then I'll show you what I'm thinking of doing. I have decided to use these strips of fabric. I'm quite excited to join them together and create some sort of patchwork. I've got different designs here, but I don't think I want to use all of them in one cover. That might be a bit too busy, so I'm just choosing about 3 to 4 of them that I think will go well together. I think all of them will go well together, but I quite like these 3. So I'm thinking of doing a long strip and then 2 shorter strips on either side. So something like that. And then what I will do is I will just continue with this pattern. So I will be putting it through my sewing machine, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch. So attaching these 2 and then doing a longer strip going across, and then repeating this pattern by adding 2 shorter strips here and then a longer strip again, and just carrying on with that until I've got a cover or an inside cover that's large enough for my journal. So let me just get the measurements here. If we look at the measurements, I've cut the covers approximately 21 by 26 centimeters. So I will be making this fabric slightly larger because it's going to be so difficult to attach those 2 and get them precisely. So I'd rather go a bit bigger and then just trim off the extra fabric. So I'm thinking of doing it maybe 29-30 centimeters by about 24-25 centimeters. So that's what I'm going for. I think let's start cutting and attaching them and getting this together to see if I actually like it. love how this pattern's coming together. I'm going to put it through my sewing machine now. I'm first going to be attaching the two smaller strips, and then I'll go down lengthwise. I tested out which color threads I like, and I'm tried this white, but it's just fading away. So I think I'm going to go with this brown beigey color. It stands out a bit more. And this is quite a small zigzag stitch, so I'm thinking I might go for something that's a little bit larger. I finished the inside covers yesterday, and I thought I'll show you this morning what they look like. So this is the one that you saw me put together on camera, and I decided to do a second one as well because the rest of the fabric, they were just staring at me and begging for me to use them. So I think both of them turned out really well, and I'm quite chuffed with it. So now all that's left to do is to get this attached to the inside of my cover. So here is my cover, and you have a few ways of how you can attach the fabric to the cover. One of the popular ways is to use fabric glue, which I have done a few times. I would say my top tip is to make sure that you spread the glue out evenly, because if you've got any lumps of glue, it's going to soak through the fabric and you're going to see the glue marks on there. So I think the more that you do this, you learn how much glue is enough and how much glue isn't, but definitely make sure you've got an even spread. A second way of doing it is to use fusible web. This is by Legacy and it comes on a roll. I have cut them already to size or just slightly larger than my cover, as you can see over there. And on these rolls, you have a rough side and a smooth side. So you're placing the rough side on your scrapbook paper or your fabric, whichever one you would like to apply to first. And you've got some instructions at the back. I'm not sure if all of them are the same. There might be slight differences between brands. So I would suggest reading the instructions and also testing it on a small piece of sample fabric and scrapbook paper, just to make sure before you start doing it on your big project. So I am just going to place it onto my cover, and then I'm going to use a dry hot iron, and I'm just going to press 5 to 8 seconds. It is quite difficult to get used to pressing because your natural instinct is to actually use the iron as you would when you're ironing clothes, but don't slide it around, just press it. And you will immediately start seeing or realizing when it starts fusing. You won't be able to pull it back. And I have an overlap here, so I have to be careful that I don't iron this to my ironing board. So I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper to place it under there. You can cut this perfectly to size if you would like to, but I always just tend to do things a little bit larger and then trim it off. So when that's cooled down, I will cut off the excess fusible web. And just a quick reminder, because I've almost done this, don't use your fabric scissors because it can make it blunt, so just use a normal scissors. And then I'm going to peel off the smooth paper, and I'm going to be left with just the rough texture of the fusible web on the scrapbook paper. I'm then going to place my fabric over that, and the instructions are saying that you should use a damp press cloth. Now I'm going to skip this step because I've got scrapbook paper and I don't want it to get wet. I think the press cloth is just there for a timing guide, because when it's dry then you know that you are okay. So I set my iron on the wool setting, and then I press again very firmly, 10 to 15 seconds this time, and I just keep checking to see if the fabric's fused. The last step is I think I'm going to put it through the sewing machine and do a border. So the fusible web that I've bought is machine safe. Just check that on the ones that you get, because I think some of the heavy duty ones you cannot put through the sewing machine, but this is quite a lightweight one and it goes through the sewing machine perfectly. So that's what we're going to do next. I have finally finished sewing the border around each of these journals. For this one, I've gone for a very similar look, so it's also a zigzag. I've just gone slightly larger, and I'll give you a peek on the inside to see what it looks like. I think I'm going to end the video here, and in the next episode we will work on the inside cover, maybe creating a pocket here and also picking out some pages for the inside. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.